Hey, I'm Gary.
And I'm Sharon.
And today we are leaving our campsite and we are going on a field trip or excursion. And we are going to Fort Phil Kearny historical place. And it's a fort too. And it's only 11 miles up the road from us on 90. So we're going to take today and we're going to go up there and check it out. Okay, short 11-mile trip, and we came in on this little gravel road right up there. There's the wife, and we have arrived at Fort Phil Kearny, Wyoming State Parks and Historic Sites. This is $3 for residents, $5 for non-residents, and we're going to walk around here. It's got an interpretive center. Here we are inside the Interpretive Center. Very nice. Cannons. Plus they have a video on TV that you can watch in the viewing room. This is my wife learning about an axe.
Civilians that came out here.
Yep.
There's an actual civilian roster.
And this was the fort. 4,000 logs to build the fort. And right there, the fort was set on fire after the big battle. We're going to go to that battlefield. That'll be another video. And this is the Interpretive Center. And there's an explanation of Indian feathers. There's the feathers. You see the red dot, the notch at the top, the cut off, the notches, the feathering at the bottom of that one. These would be in the headdresses, and that's what they mean. I never knew that about the feathers. Once upon a time. And there's the fort, historically accurate where it would have stood. And the expanse of land that runs behind it with the mountain hills and mountain ranges is almost overwhelming. If you can think back to the late 1800s, mid 1800s. At Garrison, up to 500 men, average is about 350 would be at this fort. Lodge Trail Ridge is where the battle took place. And that is that ridge, the farthest ridge out that you can see. The Indians formed a coalition, triangle attack on the soldiers. It's the largest defeat in United States history in the battles back at the Indian Wars until 10 years later when Custer was defeated. Until then it was the largest loss by the United States Army. The red marker down there would have been the site of the sawmill. Let me see if I can zoom in. And they have these sight holes in wood here with the PVC running through them. Then all you have to do is come around and look through the hole. Anyway, you sight yourself through the hole and it pinpoints the exact spot for you of where things were, what action happened where. Some information. The Fetterman fight, Fetterman battlefield, which was on the ridge. The wagon box fight, we learned, was like wagon trains without the wheels. They just put them in a circle. And this is what the inside of the fort would have looked like. And we have learned that a lot of the huts and all were built out of the green wood. They didn't have time for it to cure, and of course as the green wood cured, it shrunk and left cracks and would rain through and rain in. About those mountains out in the background. It's kind of awesome, isn't it? This is the fort. list of structures. And while a lot of the buildings are no longer here, they have great knowledge about exactly how the fort was, how it was laid out, and exactly where it was. So they have laid out the whole, I think it was 40 acres and another 7 acres of exactly where the fort and all the buildings would have been. And they've got them all labeled on post with information about it. The fort was huge. It was one of the largest forts. See the expanse of it all the way out to those wooden corner posts down there. This would be the view if you were a soldier behind the fort post, standing on the walkway looking out. I suppose if you were in a battle, you would lay your rifle there. There's another one. That's what you would see. The entrance gate and the rest of the fort. We've been all back through there. This is what they have laid out around here as an area marked off by the hay bales. Kiosks explaining it. The floor of the magazine was 4 feet below ground. And they have these little kiosks in hay. As you can see, the hay bales all through here marking out where the walls would have been for the different buildings. Way up there's the front. The building corner. Building corner. NCO quarters. We've been right in here. There's 2 more posts there, indicating that this area here would have been the NCO quarters. They've done a really good job here showing just exactly where everything would have been, helping you take yourself back in time to when this fort actually stood here and was active. The quartermaster corral would have been back in there. I thought it was 7 acres. Would have looked like that. And if you want to know about pay back in the days, maintaining Fort Kearny was expensive. Laborers were paid $35 to $45 a month, 3 times the salary of an Army enlisted man, while guides made from $5 to $10 a day, almost as much as an Army colonel. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a flag up there on that peak. That is where the Army spotters would be, watching the wagons that were harvesting the wood, and if the Indians attacked, they would call to the fort here and the troops would go out. But that would be the spotting peak. And there we have a gun bastion. This would be the commissary. And I am out at the far corner of this fort. And if you look there, diagonally, there's the gate, the entrance to the fort. And just one thing I've noticed, that this fort kind of lays here in this little flat area. Don't really know how much the terrain has changed since back then. I'm sure it's changed a little bit, some of it. That area, I don't know. There's been some roads cut. These hills going along here. Of course, the highway's been cut through right there. That's a circle view of the terrain surrounding the fort. And I would just think with the fort being down here, with these mountains all around it, the Indians would have a pretty good eye view of looking down into the fort, maybe what's going on. A guardhouse stood here. At one time had over 20, mostly deserters, were being kept interred in the guardhouse. An overlay of the fort, 46 different buildings, and a Mr. Carl R. Osland. His contributions to the discovery and preservation of the historic features of Fort Phil Kearny and surrounding sites. His contributions began in the 60s. So if you can just imagine the walls constructed around this perimeter, in here, and then throw 46 buildings up in this field, an average of 350 soldiers, and I'm not sure about families, and then put livestock and horses in here, and wagons, and whatever else might be stored in here on the everyday military life in a fort. It must have been a fairly congested and crowded living area. This is how they lived, life in a fort, soldier's life. And of course the element of danger, weather. This is Wyoming, but you had the snow. They had to try to gather hay for the horses, but they could never get, mules rather, mostly mules, for pulling the wagons, but they can never gather enough hay to quite make it over the winter. And a lot of the mules and livestock horses suffered through the winter. They would try to eat their harnesses, but this would have been quite a bustling, crowded place. So we have just completed this tour of Fort Phil Kearny. What are your thoughts on this?
Very humbling, because our little minor whines and crying that goes on now is nothing compared to what people had to go through years and years ago and what the people went through here. It also is disturbing to me, as a maybe to many people, that what happened to the Native Americans. Every time I visit a place like this, it's just, I'm reminded. And I don't know what the alternative is, because I think if everything in history hadn't happened, we wouldn't be sitting here today.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just wish everyone could get along, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, we're not getting into politics over the American Indian Wars and all that, or the right and wrongs of it, but
yeah,
you do wish things could have been a little bit different,
yeah,
a little bit better.
Because the Indians, like, they were just protecting what was theirs,
Yep.
their livelihoods, and many of them did cooperate with the white man, and then many of them, there were attacks. And if they weren't attacking the white man, they were attacking each other, just like the white man was the same thing.
Yep.
So it's a people issue. It's not a white, it's not a red, it's not a black, it's not yellow.
It's one of those why can't we all get along issues.
And sing Kumbaya. That's what I want. That's what I'm saying. But it's very interesting. I did see, and I'll put their names up here, 2 women that were here chronicled their life at that time. And I just think that would be fascinating to read what their daily life was like.
Right.
Each one wrote a book. Very, very interesting. First person point of view. I love reading what the quotes from the Native Americans and the inserts from the people who lived here, their actual words. It's pretty remarkable.
Yes, and I just find it amazing that everything took place inside this fence line, and all this grass we see out here would not have been grass, would have been dirt, mud, and all that, and what the soldiers had to endure when they were here. And also, I do believe the Parks Department for Wyoming did a standout job in how they laid this out in here with the corner markers and depicting everything accurate, so you could actually sit here and almost put yourself back in time.
Yes.
To try and get a feeling of what it was like, with the mountains in the back and kind of what might have been like to be back there. Of course, I could never actually know because I wasn't there. And you got Highway 90 in the background with the cars going by, but
right.
But they did a really good job. The Interpretive Center is really great, and of course the staff in there, the lady in there was really nice and helpful, and took us over to the relief map and showed us everything that what happened. It was excellent, and we were just staying over here at the county park.
Mikesell-Potts Recreation Area.
And we happened to see the sign for this fort coming down 90 East going to our campground, and we looked at it. We looked online and said, well, that looks like something interesting, and we thought it was only 11 miles away. Well, shoot, we jumped in the car to come over here and do a day trip, and it turned out to be, wow,
yeah,
pretty nice. And we're going to leave here and go to the actual battlefield and do a video on that, because it's right on the way to here.
Right.
So yeah, this whole day turned out to be a really fine day. I mean, very informative day.
Yeah, if you like history and learning about areas you visit, this is yeah, you can never tell from a video. I mean, whenever we're here, it's like so amazing, and then we look at the videos and we just can't capture it all. We capture a nugget of it. So you can check that out.
Watching the TV video, this is one of 3 forts that was authorized by Congress to be built to protect the Bozeman Trail, the travelers going along the Bozeman Trail. There's just a whole lot of history that goes just behind, this just touches the surface of the history involved in this area with the forts and everything that took place back in this 1860s, I guess it was, period of time with the settlers and everything moving out, and of course everything that transpired with the American Indian Wars and all that. And it's just a lot of information right here. And of course we were in South Wyoming on our way out here and stopped at Fort Bridger, and that's a whole nother set of history down there, and we did a video on that also.
And we found out that Jim Bridger, who we learned about at Fort Bridger, came here.
Yeah.
So he's known about these parts too.
Yes.
So pretty cool.
So if you're on Highway 90, whether you're stopping to camp in Wyoming like we are, because what we do, and this is part of what we say we like looking at freedom, well, this is Freedom Surroundings. It's just right off of I-90. It's worth pull it off, a couple of hours, take a tour.
Right, worth it.
Worth it. $5, can't beat it.
And the surrounding landscape is just stunning. So
yes, and you could just imagine what it was like back in the day. And this is a Ruff Road RV review.
We like looking at freedom.
Hope to see you on the road.
Bye.
Bye.